Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture and Alpha Flight Monday. We got 5 Mondays left in December. We got 6 books we're going to look at. Now the reason is if I ended on this book, I sort of end on a to be continued. So we're going to do both of these books on the last Monday, but this Monday, is all about Alpha Flight number 48. Alpha Flight on the Attack. This is from July of 1987. Let's see what Alpha Flight has in store for us this month. Well, they have madness in store for us. Madness again. Yes, madness again. So, last month, we had a solo story with Vindicator going home and fighting trees. Well, okay, I know I made it sound a little goofier than it really was, but there you go. So now we're kind of continuing with what was going on before that little solo, and I think fill-in issue, and that is the madness of Roger Bochs. He is screaming, cursing. He wants to kill everybody, especially Aurora, who led him on. This is a man who is not in his right mind. Maybe was never in his right mind. And so the question ahead of Alpha Flight is, what do we do with this guy? How do we help him? You see, Madison Jeffries is now in the Bochs armor. They sort of invented a new power for him to turn him into the new Bochs. So there you go. So, he's angry because they've trapped him inside this thing. And Vindicator's telling him, you left us no choice, Roger. You were trying to destroy Aurora. A tramp. She's a fellow Alphan, despite what transpired between you two. That's why usually businesses don't want dating between employees. I had the power to finish you all, and I would have succeeded if it hadn't been for those meddling kids. No, if he hadn't stolen my robot. It's true that you designed the robot, Boxy, but it was my transmutative powers what built it for you. I couldn't let you use it to hurt your friends. Look at his eyes, how he hates me. You gave him every reason, my sister. North Star criticizing Aurora in front of the rest of us. Let me do a better reading of that from Wanda. Now Wanda Lankowski. North Star criticizing Aurora in front of the rest of us? He'd never have done that in the old days. But then a lot seems to have changed since between the time when I, Walter Lankowski, was reborn as Wanda Lankowski. Yes, a lot has changed. And some might argue that some of it is a little bit lore-breaking. Well, there's personality changes. And, we'll just keep on moving. So we see that Puck is once again injured, and he's complaining about it instead of doing something about it. This is one of the changes that I'm not a fan of because I am a fan of Puck. And so it all comes down to, look, we got to help the guy. What are we going to do to do it? And we have once again Heather, who's kind of like going, okay, man, what kind of team am I leading here? So we're doing a little catch up again, kind of going through some of the things that have happened to these characters. Look, Alpha Flight has been far more tragedy than triumph over the course of the comic. And spoiler alert, that's not going to change too much. And so now you got Jeffries is going to be angry at North Star because of what he's saying about Aurora. It's kind of constant with this team and the fighting. So we have, North Star and Bochs are getting in a fight. Sasquatch separates them. Purple Girl saying, is what Sasquatch says true? Is it always like this around here? No, Kara, sometimes it's even worse. And so they so somebody finally gets an idea. And that's Madison Jeffries. He's going to contact his brother, Scramble. Now, in all honesty, Scramble is part of the problem here he's the one who changed Roger Bochs physically. And it seems like there are some issues with what he did. Like it's not really working the way it was supposed to work. And man, this is a text-heavy page. You got to catch people up, but you also have to assume that at least some people have actually read your previous books. So again, now they're going through their dealings with Scramble. He was a villain, warping people. Now he's sort of his mental illness was cured by himself. He's able to transmute flesh and bone and blood the way Madison Jeffries can transmute metal. So he with Madison's help, he kind of cured himself. But we got some suggestions a couple issues ago that maybe the cure hasn't really worked. We also see him dressed up in something reminiscent of what Magneto is wearing at this point in time. And that's a little bad too. So they go to this clinic. They still got Roger in this containment unit. And so they're like, can you help him, basically? And we see he just casually heals all of Puck's wounds right there. And North Star, who's had this persistent cough, brought on, he believes, by pestilence. And we'll talk in a minute about what was going on there. But he's saying, you know what, I think I need to, I think maybe I need to finally see this guy about this cough, this disease that I seem to have. And so they're saying, listen, can you cure his madness? And Scramble is saying, well, no, probably not. Because I was able to cure my madness based upon the matrix of my brother's brain. I don't have something like that for Bochs. And he's asking Heather, she says, so you can't cure Bochs madness? You sound almost relieved, Vindicator. Do I? And she's kind of thinking, well, I want his madness cured, but on the other hand, we're really relying on this guy way too much. And this guy, the first time he met her, twisted her body in horrific ways. So she's not 100% on board with Scramble, and maybe isn't 100% sure he's trustworthy at this point. You still mistrust me, Vindicator, for what I once was. I can't fault your fear, but I have tried to demonstrate my repentance by aiding Alpha, even though I failed to permanently restore Box's legs or Sasquatch's masculinity. You did your best, but I must do better if I am to earn your leader's forgiveness. I must adhere to Vindicator's high standards of perfection, and I must not fail, as she never fails. Point taken, Scramble. No, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, lots of them. I'm not happy about my errors, but I've never heard Alpha reprove me for them. They just say I've done my best, as you are trying to do. So try to cure Bochs, Dr. Jeffries, please. Yeah, and to be honest with you, they need to probably reprove her once in a while. And I've kind of alluded to that a few times. She makes some really quick life and death decisions. And if I was one of her team, if I'm completely honest, I'd be a little bit worried about some of it. So he says, okay, I'm going to go ahead and try. And so Bochs carries Roger. Well, let's say Madison Jeffries carries Roger, to this area where he can work on him. And so we have his assistant is Dr. Knapp. Dr. Knapp, sir, do you think you can tear your eyes off the purple girl long enough to assist me? Yes, sir. This may take some time. We'll wait while I will seek out Scramble on my own. That's North Star. I hope Roger can be cured. Do you, Aurora? Do you? Very soap opera-y. Now, this is another interesting sort of issue where I think there's some behind-the-scenes problems in the making of Alpha Flight. When Kara is introduced, they say right out, she's 13 years old. Okay. But it seems within an issue or so that she's older than that. Like they've kind of changed their minds and they're not saying anything, or they forgot, or what have you. Now, Dr. Knapp he's a doctor, so he's presumably been through medical school. So he should be in his 20s. Now, okay, maybe it's a Doogie Howser situation. I don't know if they ever make it clear, but at first glance, you're going, yeah, this guy in his mid-20s probably should not be checking out a 13-year-old girl. But I think, again, he's not, because she's not really 13, and it's one of those things where you're going, could you guys lay something down and stick with it? When I first read a lot of these, I was reading them out of order. I'd get what I got, and then maybe I'd later fill in back issues. When you're reading them all together, that's when you start noticing, like, there's some quality control issues here, folks. I still like the characters, but there are some quality control issues. Okay. So that being said, Robotech. Oh, how awesome was that? The role-playing game. Okay. So time lapses. We get a little bit of downtime for Alpha Flight, and they're not necessarily really having a lot of fun here. And, Walter seems to be adjusting pretty well to being Wanda. He's kind of having fun with it. I like the Walter character. He is, he was obviously having issues when that evil Sasquatch spirit was possessing him. But outside of that, he's a pretty fun character. And I am glad that they brought him back. Kind of sad they had to kill somebody else off to do it. And so here things are going to start taking a turn. They got Bochs down there. They're going to start working on him. And we have this exchange between Lionel Jeffries and Madison Jeffries. He goes, where they're finding out what he did to give Roger Bochs his legs. He goes, I thought you used Bochs' own body mass. Of course you did. No one, and especially not Alpha's judgmental leader Vindicator, could have countenanced the truth. What truth, Lionel? New Life caters to the incurable. New Life being his organization, his institute. Some I have successfully restored by giving them parts taken from others. I knew you were using body parts, but I didn't think you killed to get them. I did what was necessary to create superior beings, but those experiments paled beside the prospect of what I could do with such already superior beings, such as comprise Alpha Flight. Lionel, you're kidding. You gotta be. It was that kind of stuff, messing with the dead, to make some kind of new man that got you locked up in the asylum the first time, which is actually not an asylum, it was a hospital, from which Alpha freed me, Madison, because you was cured of your madness. Or perhaps, never having been truly insane, I was merely able to convince you that I was now sane, as society measures sanity, enough to function outside the asylum. So, yeah, either he was faking it or his own cure didn't take. And he now attacks his brother. You see, he makes his, his arm distorted and weird. And so, thus immobilized, you will watch as no longer limited to the use of such ordinary organic material as embodied in these, my former patients. And look at that. Ugh. I mine Alpha Flight's superior biogenetics to create a truly superior race of new men, whom I believe I shall call Omega. And now Dr. Knapp, well, God bless him. No, I've heard enough. When I thought you were using your powers to cure the incurable, I idolized you. When some patients died and used their corpses for experimentation, I chalked that up to the good of science. But now you've indicted yourself by word and deed. You're insane, and I won't stand by and let you. Knapp, I tolerated your presence not only because you are a brilliant surgeon, but also because I detected in you the dormant seeds of a power with the potential to make you a superior being. Now, this is one of those moments where you're always going, okay, good. You want to oppose the extremely powerful bad guy. But what if you didn't tell him that to his face, and you just sort of snuck off and did something about it. You get that in movies all the time. You know, I now realize you're the one who murdered so-and-so. I'm going to call the police. And the guy's like, got a gun. And you're going, maybe you should have played along a minute and then called the... Anyways. So Knapp ends up getting scrambled as well. It's pretty terrible. And so now Scramble starts working on Bochs. And he says, look, together, we can create an invincible being capable of sweeping humanity or even superhumanity before it. And Alpha either join us or die. The choice is theirs. You're nutty as a fruitcake, Scramble, but I'm with you. So be it. Okay. So Jeffries has been immobilized, and he's, I think, removed his mouth or something like that. And so now Scramble is going to unite with Roger Bochs to form something. Okay, in the meantime, North Star is sneaking off. Aurora is following. Now, I think initially, and I could be completely wrong on this, that either they intended North Star's sickness to be a story about AIDS, which was a big thing at the time, a really big thing, or they did intend, well, I'm not going to get into what it turns out to really be. We'll deal with that in a couple issues. But they clearly, North Star clearly thinks that is what he's dealing with. He's convinced he's going to die. And that's why he's going to seek out this treatment. But I wondered if they just said, no, let's not do that storyline. That may be too serious and maybe get into other things. I don't know. Again, I think there's some behind-the-scenes stuff going on in these alpha flights between writing and editing. Bill Mantlo, I think at this point, was trying to get... He was studying law because he kind of wanted to get out of comic books. I know some of the people at Marvel had problems with Jim Shooter and how he was in charge. And I don't know. I get the feeling there are behind-the-scenes things going on that are affecting what we get on the page. And so Aurora wanders into this room, and there's all these people in jars. And they do seem to be patients of Scramble, and they seem like they might be mentally ill. Why does he keep them in cages as if they were animals? And focus on that one for a minute, because we are going to see that character again, I believe. Unless that's just a coincidence. We're going to get a character who looks a bit like that coming into Alpha later. In fact, not in Alpha Flight Mondays, because that's going to come after, I believe after I end my run here, but at some point. So we now have a moment with North Star. My last hope. And if Scramble either cannot or will not cure me, I will die, a victim of a disease with which I was already infected when my encounter with pestilence accelerated it. But I have had many good years, fame, fun, fortune, special friends. I have no regrets about my past. I only have such a longing to live my future. Scramble, it is I, North Star. May I, by all means, speedster. And he smashes through the door. Mon Dieu. And that's where you're going, okay, yeah, they're definitely going for an AIDS narrative here. But they're being real cagey about it. And that's why I was like, maybe the editorial was like, let's not really do that. So these tentacles are attacking, and North Star is speeding away, and he crashes into the room where Alpha Flight is. Vindicator, North Star, it's coming. What's coming? The next issue. And we get, okay, let me look at VSHTROOM. Vestrum. I love comic book sound effects. Who is it, North Star? What is it? Scramble. Bochs. It can't be both, but we are, Vindicator. The man whose mind is capable of conceiving 1001 fearsome forms merged with the man whose transmutative body can give those forms substance. Together, we are the first of a race of new men. Together, we are wild stallions. No, Omega. Dum, dum, dum. Curse me once for not having heeded my suspicions regarding Scramble, and curse me twice for having put the issue of bringing Bochs to him to a vote. This is where leading a super team, according to parliamentary procedures, has led us. Now, what in heaven's name do we do? Crazy or not, there's an Alphan inside that thing. And so what we're going to do is have a big old fight, because it's a comic book, and that's how you do that stuff. Now, the one issue to me here, though, is how do you fight something that can transmute your body as soon as you touch it? I would think that you would probably pull some folks back and let Vindicator and, well, no, Madison Jeffries isn't there. Yeah, Vindicator's going to probably have to take the lead on this one. And she does here, obviously. And she's saying, we're going to kill you if we have to. So she's firing the plasma blasts. They're all kind of jumping into it. And, this is a real slugfest. Pretty good art on it. And so shooting these strands out of his mouth, got a little bit of like an alien thing going there. Jean-Paul, I've never seen him so slow. How could I have ordered him into battle? Ah, delicious. As each Alphan falls, he or she will be absorbed into my mass. Soon they will see the folly of individual might as their power becomes a part of me. But you, Vindicator, stripped of your battle suit, possess no inherent powers. Well, neither does Puck, for that matter. Thus I have little use for you, my dear, save for savoring the sweet suffering that shall accompany your destruction. Meanwhile, in Scramble's lab, what's happening out there? What's my insane brother doing to Alpha, to Heather? Lord, if only I could move my fused legs, get near enough to the Bochs robot to phase inside. But I can't. Scramble saw to that. Only one chance left. Lionel said he kept his intern, Whitman Knapp, around not only because he was a good doctor in training, but also because Knapp's got some sort of latent powers. If I could somehow communicate with Knapp, cut through his terror at what Scramble's done to him, and tell him to try and activate that power. But I can't talk through fused lips. It's hopeless. Yarg! Knapp! Something's happening to Knapp! Next issue, A Death in the Family. And look at that. The Punisher. Mike Barron, Klaus Janson. If you're guilty, you're dead. Ooh, that's the beginning of things. And you know what? It's a good sign, too, of the time period we're in, because I think some of the narrative we get with Alpha Flight has a lot to do with the new era in comics that's rolling in, which is a little more serious and et cetera. But, the issue with A Death in the Family here is, well, first of all, they were going to do that in Batman too, but there's been a lot of deaths in Alpha's family. It's not as shocking a thing as it would have been if we hadn't seen this already. Not just deaths, but people having to move on. Guardian, obviously, Marina had to move on, and Marina has her own problems coming in other books. Snowbird has been killed. It's like there's a lot of tragedy in Alpha, and I think it's like, well, let's introduce some more tragedy. I don't know if it's as effective story-wise as it could otherwise be. It's like they never give you a chance to see the characters at their best so that the stakes are raised. I think with Byrne you did. I think with Mantlo, especially over the last few issues, it's a little tougher. And it's kind of like, wow, there's never that they deal with a problem and win, and then they have some downtime. Claremont did that a lot with the X-Men. Here it's sort of like they deal with a problem, they sort of win and sort of lose, and immediately go into another horrible problem. which they're going to sort of win and sort of lose. It's more mature storytelling, but I think sometimes it's maybe a little bit too much. You do see it in other books at the time period, though. So here we go. Alpha Flight number 48. Let me know what you think in the comments. We're getting close to the end here, boys and girls, and we'll see what's in store for this, man, brave but just unbelievably unlucky team of heroes. If you enjoyed this review, please like, subscribe, share with a friend. Until next time, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little fun out there, and I will see you hopefully again soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.